Hey, Bassgeek here, and this is 6 Minute Sunday. So 6 Minute Sunday is a series where we're going to take and we're going to answer your questions. We'll ball up a bunch of questions together, or we'll pick an individual's questions and we'll answer it in 6 minutes. A really quick rundown of your question. So make sure if you've got questions, you put them in the description below. Now, the other good thing about this, what I want to do is, if you're a subscriber, if you guys have used, some of the stuff or learned some of the stuff and caught some fish on some of the stuff you've learned from this channel, hey, make sure you're sending me pictures of that. So you can just shoot them to my email. I'll put it right here. Or, like I said, just shoot them to me in an email. And we'll go ahead and at the end of this video, we'll kind of close it out with showing a couple of pictures and letting everybody know. Make sure you tell me what technique you learned from this channel that you caught that fish on. All right, so this question is actually, it was one of the most asked questions in the group. And it is early spring when the water temps just start to warm up, what baits do I pick up? And I'm going to show you how to rig them. All right, so the very first bait, the very first setup shouldn't be a surprise to you at all. So when the water temps really start to warm, and when I say water temps in my area, this really is dependent on what area of the country you're in, but when the water begins to warm steadily, that's the key. When it begins to jump 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees at a time, when the temperatures outside, the air, the ambient temperatures begin to steadily warm. Now you're going to get cold fronts in that are going to kick them back. And that's why I go to this. Hands down, I know a lot of you don't like it, but when that water temp really started pushing up above that 47, really I like it. What I really call spring is when we start to reach that 50-degree water temp. But once it starts warming up, one of the very first things I'm going to pick up is going to be the Alabama rig. For me, I've got a new setup. I've got the Lew's BB1. This is a 6-4-to-1. I like to throw the Alabama rig early on a little bit slower, but I can slow down with this reel. So a 6-4-to-1 or a 5-4-to-1, that sort of reel speed. Nice and slow as it's cold, and you can start picking up a little bit of speed as you begin to warm. Now, I always throw the 5-wire. I know a lot of guys are like, I almost always use a blade. If the water is 5 foot visible or more, I don't use blades. But as you can see here, the water color is, it's pretty dirty. We're already above, we're almost the flood stage here on Top Secret Lake S, so the water is really, really dirty for this lake this time of year. Now, generally a go-to for me is going to be the Flashmob Jr by Yum, and I generally tip it with 8. Now, depends on your state. Virginia allows you to have 5. Tennessee is only 3. A lot of your like your BFLs will only allow you to have 3 hooks. So you put 2 dummies up here. Now, something that I do is I go out and I buy dummy rigs. I like the weighted ones, and all this stuff will be linked below. You can actually go get it from Tackle Freaks, but this right here is kind of the go-to, that white or that sight flash sort of color. These 5 are actually Recon Shad by Bass Munitions, and there, of course, there's a link for that in the description too. And generally my go-to weight to start with is going to be an 1/8 ounce all the way around. I don't like the heads that just have the keepers. I like the screw locked heads. So I make it a point to go out and find heads that have the screw lock on them. I know 6 Cents makes a version, and I'm telling you guys, that saves messing with super glue, making a mess, and those are generally the 3.3. Now, as far as the setup goes, I'm going to throw that on 15-pound fluorocarbon, and this is my custom speed stick. This is the Super Duty A rig, Big Spoon Carolina rig special from Lew's. And guys, I'm gonna tell you, coupled with the BB1 Pro, this thing is incredible. I can't believe how far I can cast on this rod. Hands down, far and away the best Alabama rig combination I've ever put in my hands. All right, the very next thing, you guys actually seen this last week, or a version of it, and one of the things that I like is the Kitech or the Recon Shad, again, by Bass Munitions, and this is a color called Sour Grape. I like that a lot if I'm fishing for smallmouth, electric blue chartreuse, or you know, just smallmouth magic. There's a ton of colors out there. And what I like to do with this is fish bluff ends, fish steeper banks, long points. The biggest thing with this is that we slow roll it. Now, you'll adjust your head size. Generally, head size, I'm gonna have anywhere from 1/4 if I'm fishing super shallow, the water's muddy, I think the fish are moving up. So this particular head is a 3/8. It's a good all-around head. It's by Ledge Head. Like I said, that's the Sour Grape. That is a 3/0 3.3 Recon Shad. Same thing in the Kitechs or whatever brand you want to use. That color, I don't think anybody makes it but Recon. Again, all the links will be in the description. Generally, I'm going to throw it on, you know, a medium, maybe a little stiffer rod, but you know, this is an old St. Croix. I've got it coupled with my Lew's Speed Spin 300 series. I'm throwing it on 8 or 10 pound test fluorocarbon. Now, the next one, as the water starts to warm, especially early on, don't put that jerkbait down, guys. Don't put the jerkbait down. It is a pre-spawn to spawn bass slayer. Now, you can see this is the new Megabass. And like I said, Tackle Freaks, if you guys go back and look, I got these from Tackle Freaks. They've got them in stock. You don't have to wait for them. Go check out Tackle Freaks. Make sure you pick this up. Now, the combination. For me, generally, I like a 6/8 to 7 foot rod. This is a Fitzgerald. I think it's the Versa series, and I've got that coupled with, you know, the workhorse of Lew's, and in my opinion, the best bang for the buck. Now, I don't like a high-speed reel. I just pick up too much line and I tend to reel too fast, so I move my bait with my reel. This reel is the Lew's LFS. You can get this for $100 retail. You can get it for a lot cheaper when it goes on sale, but this is the LFS Speed Spool, and that's what I couple it with. I can cast this thing a mile. Again, I'm generally going to throw this on 8 pound fluorocarbon, and this is a medium moderate action rod. Next up in the lineup, a jig. Guys, when the bite gets tough, when it's just hard going, go to a jig. Either a football or a casting jig. Generally, it depends on how I'm covering water. You know, a football, if I'm working some long, you know, gravel, sloping, not a lot of brush, not a lot of cover, but a lot of structure, points. I'm going to throw that on this type of rod. This is a 7'3" medium heavy to a 7 foot to 7'3" heavy, depending on the size and how deep. You know, if I'm throwing a 3/4 ounce, I'm probably going to lead toward that heavy. If I'm throwing it a little smaller, I'm going to that medium heavy. I'm going to throw it on 15 pound test fluoro, and generally I'm going to put some sort of do nothing trailer, some sort of chunk, you know, like the Moab by Bass Munitions or the Strike King Rodent. So, you know, not a lot of action in either one of those. You're just going to drag it and you're going to keep it with bottom contact. Now, if I'm flipping a jig or I'm flipping anything, and this is one of the very first things generally I'm going to pick up, I swear to you, I love to flip a jig, but this little bait has kind of become that go-to for me. And it's any sort of creature. This is the Rage structure bug, the Strike King Rage structure bug, a 3/8 ounce. I like tungsten when I'm flipping. You know, a lot of times, again, I'm going to couple that if I'm flipping a jig, or if I'm flipping, you know, a soft plastic, I'm going to put it on 20 to 25 pound test. I'm going to put it on a 7/6 heavy action or heavy power fast action rod and reel. Again, this is the speed spool. This is what I've been flipping with for, I think, 2 or 3 years. Again, the LFS speed spool, and this thing has caught a lot of big fish. This is the old Carbon Light by Johnny Morris. Man, I really like that rod, believe it or not. It served me well. I mean, you can go back and look over the past 3 years how many fish I've put in the boat, and you guys know I don't land them. You know, if I'm flipping or if I'm throwing a swim bait, I'm boat hopping those bad boys in. Now this technique, this is where I want my high speed reels. Both of these are LFS speed spools at 7.5 to 1. All right, I don't know if we made it in 6 minutes there. That was a lot to cover. But anyway, be sure if your question didn't get picked this time around, make sure you put it in the comment section below. It could get picked, gosh, I can't talk, next month, and we'll go over it. Now remember, make sure that if you've caught any fish, make sure you show me the technique. Let me know how or what you learned and how you caught it. But send me in some pictures at the end of the 6 Minute Sunday. We'll go ahead and we'll run some subscriber photos. As always, guys, questions and comments in the comment section below. You know I love to talk about fishing. Don't forget, ask those questions. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And you guys rock.